Yeah, this is about Vue.js 3. Today we're just going to talk about very surface level overview of what it is, and then look at a Vue Vue app structure, and then maybe talk about, or just show you an example of how it works within a really simple web page that I built. So let's talk about Vue.js 3. What is it? Vue.js 3 is a modern JavaScript framework that empowers developers to build dynamic user interfaces and interactive web applications. Similar to other frameworks like React and Angular, it simplifies development by providing efficient ways to create reactive, reusable components and handle data changes. While Angular and React are best used for larger applications, Vue.js can be leveraged for both small and large web apps. Also, Vue.js is considered to have a shorter learning curve than other modern frameworks. And I became interested in Vue.js after working a little bit with Benny on the Vue.js app. That is it's a very complex app compared to what I'm going to address today. So this is a very basic overview. So creating a Vue.js app. Vue.js has just like Sass has a command line interface where you install the CLI and you use the Sass commands to compile. Vue.js 3 also has command line interface, and we can use it to create and develop and deploy Vue.js applications. So here are some of the commands we use to install it on our machine. And then if you want to create, you just use the Vue command to create whatever project you want. And then you have different commands, but to run it locally in a browser, you can run the npm run serve command. So that's how we create and just a kind of a scaffolding bare bones app, and then run it in the browser locally. So let's look at just a basic app structure of a Vue app. You can see it here on the right. This is what comes with when you create it with the Vue command. Basically, it comes with these directories and files. It comes with node modules, which contains all the external libraries and packages that the Vue app depends on. We don't need to manually manage this folder because we install or delete packages using npm, the node package manager. And sometimes, you've all maybe seen that when we're in a site and we run npm install plugin or whatever the plugin is called, and it'll install it right within the root of your app within the node modules. And if we look there, we see all of these different libraries that exist. So the node package manager handles all of that. You don't have to worry about that. Next, we have a public folder here, and this contains all of our static assets like images and fonts and our main index.html file. And the index.html is our entry point for the app, and it's what the browser points to. And it's what Vue.js, with the framework, it injects all of the app's content into this index.html file. So if we look at the index.html, there's a div here called with an ID of app. All of the content goes right inside of here, and I'll show you how that's done in a second here. Then we have our source folder, src, and this is where we do most of our work. Contains the majority of application code. We have assets where we can add our images, styles, CSS, Sass files, things like that. Then we have a components directory. In Vue is a component type framework where components talk to each other. It's like React, and you can create subcomponents, and they're just kind of reusable bits of code that you can pass data to, and they interact within the app with each other, and you can change data out and all these different things. So, and then we have our app.vue file, which is the root component of the app. So it usually contains a main layout and might also act as a container for other components. So that kind of looks like this. You can kind of see we have just sort of our scaffolding here, our main structure, and then it's holding all these different subcomponents within it. So that's the main app file, and then our main.js, which is the main entry point of the application. It initializes the app by importing and using the necessary libraries and components. If we look at that real quick, what this does is it imports the create app function from the Vue library, and then we're importing this app file here with the variable app, and then we use the create app function to inject or to mount all of the content within here into that app div, or the app the div with the ID of app. So that's, and then the browser points to this, and that's where you see all the HTML and JavaScript interacting and everything. And then finally, we have our package.json and config files. Some of the config files, we have a babel.config, which is Babel is a tool that converts modern JavaScript, anything 2015 and beyond, so that it can be used in older browsers. A lot of older browsers can't process any of the new features of modern JavaScript, and so Babel takes all of those modern features and rewrites it so it can be used in older browsers. Package.json, this holds our metadata and lists the dependencies. It also includes scripts for tasks like starting the development server and building the app for production. I believe I showed that in the Webpack presentation the last time I gave. But you can see everything here. It has different scripts like serve, build, and these all, when we want to run, like for example, when we want to run in the browser, we can use npm run serve, and here are some dependencies that we're using. And so it just kind of, that's the data that it contains. The Vue.config.js is for configuring various aspects of the Vue.js project, like customizing build options, configuring Webpack, and setting up proxy servers for development. I haven't done much with that, but I just kind of use the default settings right out of the box. So that's just an overview of what Vue.js is, and kind of just the structure of how the files are laid out within a Vue.js app. And this can be, this is just a basic structure. You can customize this anyway. Like if you would check out the Vue.js app, how Benny's architecture is really nice. It's a really complex, and it's really involved way of using Vue.js app or Vue.js 3. So let's look at there's the site I used before. I rewrote this in Vue.js, and so when you click on it, you get a random dad joke. And each of these components, the headers, the headings, the text, and the image and the button are all subcomponents, and they are included in this app. And each component has three sections. It has a template section where the HTML goes. Then you have your script section where you're importing components and doing any type of, declaring variables, doing any type of JavaScript, writing functions and that. And then you have a style section where you can scope the style to the specific component, like in a subcomponent. By adding scoped to it, you can pretty much any style that you add to anything within here will pertain to anything, to any of these headings. Whereas if in the global component, if you set h1 color is red, like that. Let's see, let's get back up. Whoops, I think I had that. Maybe it's not going. Well, let me come back to that actually. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's look at our subcomponents. So we have our headings right here, and the headings, these subcomponents can take props, what we call, kind of like when we worked on the CLX project, we were passing this data between subcomponents, and these are these attributes here. So we have a text attribute, a type, which is the type of heading, and this is the color that we're giving it. You can give it any type of parameter you want, but then in the subcomponent, it takes these, it receives the props here, and you declare them and the type of prop that they are. And then you can go up here and plug them in. And Vue uses these double brackets to grab the variable or the prop and print it out there. So in this file, or in this subcomponent, we see that the text is bad dad and the type is H1 and the color is white. So if we go back in here into the heading, it's going to grab the text, and if it's an H1, we're going to print out an H1 tag and all the way down to here. And then it'll print style out here as a color. So that's what we did in the subcomponent. The same thing with this button component. If we go back to the app, we have a text prop and an on-click event that we pass in this function, which will just kind of generates a random number, and then we plug that random number into whatever array index it is. If the random number is 1, then the array index will be this item here, and then it plugs this content into the various components here. So we pass this generate random on click to the button component. And if we look at the button, it takes an on-click prop, which we saw on that previous screen. The type is function and it's required. So we couldn't use that subcomponent unless we're going to pass it an on-click prop. And then we also have our text. So that on-click goes into the click event right here. And then we print out our text. So when we click the button, things change like that. And so it's just Vue.js is very component-based, just like React and Angular, and it's just kind of it's a great framework for creating, separating code into components and to have those components talk to each other. This is a very, very simple example. In something like Vue.js App, you're bringing in lots of data and having that data communicate between different parts of the app. So today I just kind of wanted to give a really just basic overview of what it is and just the basic, just kind of show you how it works in a basic way. Up here, we're importing different features from the Vue library, like this ref. When you declare a variable or an array, it has to go within a ref right here. And also, this is our importing of all of our components, and it's just a path to where the component lives. And then once you import them, you have to declare them in the returns, and this exposes them to the DOM or to the HTML up here where you can use them. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So basically, that's just a really basic overview of Vue.js. Any questions or comments?
So you worked with this for the Vue.js development project, and then you did the other project previously for CLX with the
that was React.
With React. Did you have any preference or one way you're leaning over the two?
I mean, it's hard to answer because I don't know enough about either. I really surface understanding of both, but I like Vue because it just seemed easier to learn. It did have a smaller learning curve. I like some of the syntax better, and I've been working a little bit with something called.
What was the other one that Chris just mentioned?
React.
React, yeah.
Oh, React.
Yeah, and it was built on.
It looks a lot like React.
What's that?
I said it looks a lot like React, or similar in some ways.
It's very similar. Yeah, it's yeah. I really don't know enough to tell you. I mean, we could go online and Google and say, you know, a comparison between both, but I haven't really worked with both enough to give you a really good answer on what's different. But in general, they do the same things. Apparently, React is better for like really large applications, but Vue is better for smaller applications. And you can make it as big as you want. You can, I mean, it can grow as needed. I don't think it has a huge overhead, like as big an overhead as React.
The organization that you have of like this Vue file, you have like a template, your business logic, right, where you pull in your libraries and your data, and then you do some data manipulation, and then you send that data essentially to the template, right? But then you're also putting in styles within it. So is it normal is it even possible, I guess, to break these out into individual files? Just because at this point you have template code, JavaScript data management, and then you have styling that's also getting injected, 3 things into one template file, if that makes sense, if you're tracking with me.
Yeah. Well, each component has to have a template section, and I mean, apparently, I don't see anything wrong with working with the. It's best to keep the JavaScript within each component. So, and the main app view component is, you know, like the parent component, but each one of these can have its own JavaScript. So you really are breaking a lot of it out. But a lot of the global JavaScript is in this app. For this, I mean, just for this example. But if we looked at Vue.js or something like that, I'm sure Benny does it much different than this. Like we don't have to have, you know, this array of things. You know, we could import that and keep that in a separate file if we had to.
Right, or typically that'd be coming from an API call, so it's less bulky data because all of that's coming from an external source. I guess thinking back to the CLX project, that process was still consistent, right? You pull in your libraries in React, you make your data calls, modify your data, then you shove it into your template, which is kind of all self-contained in that one template file. So
yeah, it's a very similar pattern. And
be sure to like this video and subscribe to our Gorilla Learning Lab. We have a lot more banana tidbits for you to get ape over. Check out our other videos or visit our website at www.10poundgorilla.com. I'm swinging on out of here.
Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You're not subscribed? That's bananas!